Welcome to Granny's Country Cooking, and I am Granny. And guess what we're making today? Right now, you can follow these recipes, this video, and you can see how to make these beautiful, beautiful cinnamon roll bites. They're smaller than the regular cinnamon rolls that I make, and this is going to be easier to eat for like snacks and for finger foods and that sort of thing. So at Granny's Country Cooking today, this is what we are making. So stay tuned. I can't wait for y'all to write me and let me know how much you like this. I'll show you exactly how to make these today. So stay tuned. I can't wait for you to make these with me. Love you all. See you in just a minute. Bye-bye. All right, we're going to get started in making our absolutely delicious cinnamon roll bites. Now, in another of my videos, it's cinnamon rolls, and they're nice, beautiful, big, round cinnamon rolls. But this is going to be the same recipe that we will use, but we're going to cut them in a different way. And we're going to have them in little bitty muffin cups, so we have a smaller bite size. And that's why I call them cinnamon roll bites. Now, first, for all the new cooks, I want to mention a few things. Always have your hands washed and clean, ready to go. Next thing is to have an apron on. That way you can play in your food and enjoy it, and you won't get your clothes messy. I do have children and teenagers and all ages that are learning to cook, and they like to follow my show. And so I kind of try to help them along. So excuse for the brand new cooks. Another thing that I do is if you have long hair, I pull my hair back, get it out of the way. Another thing is I have a little hot soapy little bucket of soapy water. And I put in a little bit of bleach, and this is ready. When I have something that is needing to be washed, I just dump it in the bucket, and by the time I get to it, it's already almost washed. Okay, now the ingredients to go with these cinnamon roll bites is going to be, we're going to have Fleischmann's yeast, not the rapid rise, but the regular yeast. This one is called active dry yeast, just regular yeast. Okay, we're going to have flour, sugar, Crisco shortening, and I love the butter flavor. It just gives a creamier, butterier flavor to the cinnamon rolls. We're going to use this. We are going to be using salt, and I love my little antique jars. I only use sea salt. And the reason why is it has a better flavor, and you don't have to use quite as much. So this is what we're using. Now we're going to get started in making our rolls. And the first thing you want to do is to have 2 cups of water. This is a liquid measuring cup. And what this does is it gives you room to use it, and it doesn't spill everywhere. Now we're using 2 cups of water. I'm going to heat it in the microwave just a little bit, not too hot. Or if you don't have a microwave, you can put it into a little saucepan and heat it on the stove. And you don't want it boiling or anything, you want it warm. And I'll show you how to tell whether it's too hot or not hot enough in just a minute. So I'm going to put this and heat this up for just a few minutes, and I will be right back. All right, thank you. Okay, we have it all set up. Now, I've got the water warm, and the way that you tell if it's not too hot or not too cold is you put your clean finger into the water. Now, if it's just kind of a light warm, you barely feel it, that's not warm enough. If it's enough that it kind of burns your finger, that's too much. You want it to be to where you feel the heat, but not bad. It's kind of like when a parent has a new baby and they're testing the milk for the baby bottle. That's how you can kind of tell. It's just a warm temperature for your skin. Now in this, you're going to need a nice big bowl. And this is a pottery, kind of a crockery handmade bowl. And I buy these, I got these many years ago, but they still sell them at Lehman's online. And it's Lehmans online. Now this is handmade, and they do ship it, and they do wrap them very, very good. But the reason why I love this type of bowl, this hand pottery bowl, is because of the thickness, and it is it'll hold the warmth in of the yeast, and I use it for all of my bread, for homemade loaves of bread, hot rolls, cinnamon rolls, everything. And I use this because the thickness of the bowl holds the heat in and allows the dough to rise better. Okay, now the first step, 1 tablespoon. Now I know I also have 1 package of yeast in the recipe, which still works, but I like 1 tablespoon because it gives it a little bit more oomph to it. So we're going to get 1 tablespoon. Okay. Now, I'm not stirring it or anything yet. I am going to pour this warm, perfect temperature, perfect, into the yeast. Don't stir. And I know this sounds very strange, but this is a very important step. What you do is you don't stir it for 5 minutes. I have my little old-timey timer, and I'm going to time it for 5 minutes. The reason why we do this is it's called proofing, and the yeast is what gives the bread and the rolls that oomph to make it rise. And if after 5 minutes, if it's not kind of frothy a little bit, then there's something wrong with the yeast. So that means it won't work in the recipe. If you have an old package of yeast, I'm sorry, it's not going to work, because the little enzymes and whatever's in there kind of dies away after a while. So you need that oomph, that foaminess to make the bread rise. So I've set it for 5 minutes, and I will be back with you after it's set. Okay, we'll be right back. All right, it's been 5 minutes. Now we're going to go ahead and add our sugar and our salt and our shortening in right now. Now it's going to be 1/2 cup of sugar. So I have, as you know, if you watch my videos, I'm always cooking. And in some of my little measuring, like my sugar and my flour and things, I already have measuring cups in there because I use them so much. So this is 1/2 of a cup of sugar. So we're going to sprinkle that in there, and that's it for the sugar. Then we're going to put in the salt, and we need 2 teaspoons of salt. So let's get my little salt jar out, and we will get that ready. We need 2 teaspoons. There is 1. Okay. And 2. It sounds like a lot, but it's going to be delicious, so it's okay, no worries. 2 teaspoons of salt, okay? Now, this is where the strange part comes in. We're going to have 1/2 cup of Crisco, and it's butter Crisco, and I went ahead and measured it so we don't have to wait on that. And you take your knife or spatula, and you go around the edge, and you try not to plop it in too big, it'll splash on you. And wow, that came out really good. So we're going to set this off to the side. one thing I don't do is put in my shortening spoons and things into the hot water. It seems to turn it into glue, so I wipe it out later with a paper towel. Makes it a lot better. All right. A whisk, very, very important. It mixes all of this up, and I like the pointed kind because it gets into all the little corners. So we're going to wipe the extra shortening off and get it onto our whisk. Now, this is the weird part. The shortening doesn't look like it wants to mix in very well. And so if you can see, it's just a little bit of clumps with liquid. But the more that you stir, the warmness of the water is going to help the shortening start blending in. But when you first do this, don't worry. It really does mix in, but it looks awful. Looks like big lumps of yellow floating around in there. But it's going to be okay. Now we're going to kind of stir and get that sugar and that salt mixed up in there. And what we're going to do is add a little bit of flour at a time. That way it will help the shortening to blend in with the flour. And be sure you're not in a hurry. This is a fun recipe, but you do need a little bit of time because the little cinnamon rolls are going to need time to rise. And so that's what we're doing. We're taking time, and we're going to do a good job, and oh my gosh, they're going to taste so good. Absolutely delicious. And we're going to stir this, and I call it a mess because it looks like a mess in here. Now, the full amount that we're going to put in is, let me find it, is 3.5 cups. Now, let me get my measuring out. Have my 1 cup. We are going to use a sifter because I use big bulk of flour, and sometimes when I'm big 25-pound bags, and when I'm cutting some of that paper off on the opening, I get little pieces in there, and I just like to make sure everything's sifted and I don't have any lumps or anything strange in there. So we are going to get 3.5 cups of flour. Now first, to start blending, we won't dump it all in, but we'll go ahead and get it measured, so that way you know you have enough. So use your clean fingers, and we're going to do that. Now, something that you may see, and I've mentioned in my videos, is that that's 1 cup. Now we're going to get another cup, is that all the bread recipes will tell you between 5 and 6 cups, or between this and that. And the reason is because different flour amounts, it matters about the humidity. And sometimes you might need a little less flour, or you might need a little bit more. And so we're going to get started with 3. And I need to get my 1/2 cup measure. Let me get my little measure, and I'll be right back. Okay, this is a 1/2. Now we have 3 in here. We're going to put 1/2. We're not going to dump it all in there at once. We're going to go slowly. But this is the other 1/2, and I want to make sure we remember the measurements that we're putting in. And later, when we start mixing the dough in with a big spoon, we may use a little less and we may use a little more, but we for sure will use the 3.5. But we may have 2 cups more, or we may have a little bit more. So now I'm going to add just a little bit of this, kind of give a soupy kind of a mixture here, so that you can kind of see it's going to kind of start mixing together. This whisk will really, really help. And it's going to get all that shortening blended in, sugar and the salt. This is a wonderful recipe. This has come from a wonderful, she's already gone to heaven now, she's passed away, but she was one of my neighbors growing up as a little girl in our community, and we had lots of German and Czechoslovakian people and Hungarian people in our neighborhood, and my family was originally Norwegian, and so our area in this country of Texas part was lots and lots of beautiful people, wonderful people, loving people, and wow, could they cook. Woo! And this one lady, as long as her children were at home, she made these cinnamon rolls every Saturday for them. And my mom and I had tasted some of her cinnamon rolls, and wow, we asked her if she would teach us. And my mom had a little bakery in our home, and I started out cooking when I was about 3 to help her. But when I was about 10 or so, we went to this lady's house, and she taught us how to make these rolls. And she was a little German lady, and I'm so, so thankful for the raising I had and for the teaching. Oh, my goodness. I had elderly aunts that were real pioneer women that were way up in their 90s when I was early teenager, and they taught me quite a bit. And they were the ones that cooked on campfires, cooked out of chuck wagons. They really did the real thing, and they taught me how to do a tremendous amount of cooking. A lot of my recipes can be done even on a campfire. That's how simple and easy these recipes are. Now I want you to see something. The shortening and the batter is getting all creamed together with the whisk. There's still a few lumps, but we will get rid of those in a minute by adding just a little bit of this flour as we go along and mixing it up. Then we get a real pretty creamy batter. But we measured what we wanted in here, so we know how much we're getting. So this is going to finish out as 3.5 cups. Then when we start adding more flour, we're going to use a nice big spoon, because this whisk will get all clunked up then. Oh wow, this is really looking nice. I use a whisk for everything. All right, let me show you the batter. It's getting nice and thick, and it's getting smoother the more I stir. Now when you're cooking with yeast, you don't want to stop stirring and go off and watch the kids, or if you need to, it's emergency, of course. But what I'm saying is you don't want to leave yeast just sitting on the cabinet, because it has yeast. The bread in it has that yeast, and it'll keep rising. The more it sits, the more it's rising. And so when you're working with yeast, you want to be able to have a nice clear afternoon. If you have emergencies, it's okay. Be sure and tend to everything you need to. But this isn't something you can just set on the counter and go watch a TV show. No, it's not going to work out real well. Oh, wow. Look how beautiful this is getting. Really, really smooth. We're going to keep adding a little bit more. And we'll make sure we get all of it in there. And it does take a little time. But if you really, really want to bless somebody, or if you want to bless your family, or you want to really enjoy these cinnamon rolls, this is worth it. And this batter is going to a family that lost a loved one, and we as friends are helping in the community. We're helping to bring some food to the church to be with the family after the services tomorrow. So I'm making these cinnamon rolls for a reason, for sure. Now, I may have some extra that I can enjoy at home, but we are getting to enjoy doing this for someone else and trying to bless someone, and that makes you even happier. Okay, now what I did, I haven't got all of the flour yet, but it's almost all, and I'm going to scrape this off because, as you can tell, it's starting to get thick, and the whisk isn't going to work very well when it's thick like that. So we are going to, and I need to not stick this down in the soapy water until I get a little bit more off. All right, that's about all I can do, I guess. All right. Now we're going to get us a nice big spoon. There. Now it'll be almost washed by the time I get there. Nice big spoon. Big bowl and big spoon. That's what's fun. And you know what is so much fun when you're making yeast breads, like homemade bread or hot rolls or cinnamon rolls. Oh my gosh, the house smells like a bakery. And your neighbors will start wanting to know what you're making. And it's fun. It really is fun. We live way out in the country, and we have neighbors about, an eighth of a mile away, kind of way down the road, and they used to tell me, they don't live there anymore, I'm sorry, but they used to tell me that they knew when I was making bread. They could smell that beautiful bread. Now this is beautiful. We're going to start adding a little bit more flour. And I'll show you, it's starting to get real pretty. And I didn't mean to put my sifter away. Now, the next step, it says 2 more cups of flour. What that means is up 2 cups, maybe a little more, a little bit less. So let's take it a little bit at a time, and I'm going to do 1 cup at a time until we get to the ball stage, and I'll show you where that is. But this is going to be, we're going to get that where I can get to it, but this is 1 cup, and we'll work with 1 cup until we get, and we'll see how that 1 cup works until it turns into a nice ball, and you'll see it when it happens, and we'll get stirred with that. And we may need the full 2 cups today, and we may not, so we'll wait and see. Soon I'm going to be making honey wheat bread, big loaves of bread, and you can make them with me. I would love for you to write me and let me even see pictures of your breads or cinnamon rolls or anything that you make. I'd love to see them. And if you have questions of any kind, be sure and write me. And we have the comments on the YouTube videos where you can push the like button. And then you can also write me some notes and I will answer you. And also, I have an email. And the email is granniescountrycooking@gmail.com. And on the cooking part, I made it on purpose to be COOKIN only. And as you can see the name in YouTube, that's also what it is. And I'm also invite you to go to my Instagram page, Facebook. I have Facebook also. And I would love to have you go to those and see the different pictures and sites. Now this is still the 1 cup. And I can tell we're going to need some more because it's not turning, it's kind of a gooey ball, but it's not turning into a ball. And I'll show you in just a minute. So let's get 1 more cup, but we may not use it all. And clean hands, of course. All right. I'm going to add a little bit more. I love aprons because you can wipe your hands on them. Now this is what we're talking about. See, it's starting to turn into a ball. And that's the dough ball, and we're going to be kneading it in just a minute. Whoa, I threw out some flour, but I'll get it in just a minute. Yep, there it went. But that's all right. That's fun to cook, and if we make a mess, we just clean it up. No worries. That's what makes cooking fun. When I was growing up cooking with my mother in the little bakery, she always made it fun, and she's already passed on now, and I miss her tremendously. But I still feel her with me, so I still feel like she enjoys helping me, and she's around and she knows, and I love that. All right, we're still adding that 2nd cup a little bit at a time, and we want to get it to where it's a nice workable ball. Now this dough, we don't want a lot of extra flour into it, so I'm going to be what's called kneading it in the bowl, not on a pastry cloth. We will be rolling it out later on a pastry cloth, but right now I'll be kneading it in the bowl when it gets ready. And it's starting to be hard to stir. Looky here. We're getting there, but can you see it's still kind of sticky? That's why we need a little bit more flour, and we may need a little bit more than the 2. We don't know. We will see. In just a minute, I'm going to be getting my hands in it. That's where the fun is. In my videos, I'm making a mess, but it's okay. In my videos on YouTube, I've got biscuits that I would love for you to try. They're a quick bread. They don't take long, and you don't have to let them rise. And oh, the family is so proud of you when you make biscuits. Now I'm getting my hands into it. And as you can tell, I do have rings, but I don't have any problem with getting dough in my rings because I just have a little cleaning brush and just squish over it and it's fine. Okay, now, kneading the bread means that I've taken my fingers under and rolled towards me and push. Then I turn the bowl and I push my fingers under, roll it back towards me, turn the bowl, fingers under and roll back. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I will try to get it to where you can see. Maybe one of these days I'll have a overhead camera. That'd be nice. Now, every so often, I'm going to have to add a teensy bit more flour to make it workable. But as you can see, we didn't use the full 2 cups. Now, I may add them in just a little bit at a time to make the ball work better. Now, what I'm doing is pulling and pushing, like that. As you can imagine, our pioneer moms and grandmothers and whoever did the cooking had really strong arms, as well as everything else. They worked hard out with the chickens and the animals and things, and that's what makes it fun. I'm going to sprinkle a little more. And the way you know you need a little more at a time is it gets sticky to your hand. And you're rolling it, but when it kind of starts sticking, you need a little bit more flour. Okay, fingers rolling like that. Okay. See, I'm rolling, pulling it towards me. Fingers under and rolling it this way. Needs a little bit more flour. It's getting a little sticky on my hands. Not much, just a little, just a little. This is so much fun. And oh, you will be so proud of yourself when you make these and your family or friends. You may want to give some, and I'm so proud of my granddaughters and grandson, and they've been raised close to us where they can come and visit, but they always help cook, and they're learning how to cook so wonderfully. And one of the granddaughters even makes their own cinnamon rolls since she was about 14. And now she's 16, but she's able to make cinnamon rolls all by herself now, and I'm so proud of her. Just a little bit more flour. Now, what I'm doing is what's called kneading. It's called K-N-E-A-D-I-N-G, kneading. And you have to knead the flour because it makes that flour and yeast and everything start working together and blending better. So that's what we're doing. And this, I'm going to be kneading this flour, this dough ball, for 10 minutes. So I'm going to take a quick break so you don't have to watch me for 10 full minutes in kneading the dough. But you'll need to at your home, you'll need to put the timer and say 10 minutes and knead it and roll and knead it and roll for 10 minutes. So I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes and we will be back. I'll see you in just a few minutes. All right, we are back. It's been 10 minutes and I want you to see how beautiful this ball of dough is. Absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful, nice ball of dough. And we're going to use a rolling pin. I have my pastry cloth set out. And if you don't have a pastry cloth and you would like to have one, I know that Amazon has them, and also a little pastry sock that goes on the rolling pin. And let me get my rolling pin out. I'll be right back. Thank you. Okay, this is my mama's rolling pin, and I have been using it since she passed away, and I love it. I grew up with this little rolling pin. It's the actual old timey's. Probably she was married in 42, so this was probably a wedding gift or something that she got at that time. Now, we're going to put the little sock on, and the reason why we use the little sock is that it keeps the dough from sticking to the rolling pin. And as I was saying a while ago, you can get the pastry cloth and the little sock from Amazon. And I don't think it costs very much. And we're going to get that little sock on there just right. And this pastry cloths seem to last forever. This one is my original one from 1967. And I have been using it. It's got a few little holes, but I still love it. And my mother made this one for me. Now, what you do is it's been fresh washed. If you're making biscuits and things like that, periodically you can use the same little pastry cloth. You don't have to wash it every time, but you can. But when you're making cinnamon rolls, you do want to wash it every time because you don't want cinnamon in your biscuits for the morning. Okay, now what I did was I sprinkled flour on my nice clean pastry cloth. Now we're going to kind of rub it in, and what that does is that it keeps the dough from sticking to the cloth. Now I am going to have some more, as you can see, because we are going to roll this dough out to a certain measurement. Then we're going to paint it with butter, and we're going to sprinkle cinnamon and sugar in the middle of it. So we're going to have a nice 14 size flat piece of dough in just a minute. So you want to make sure you have enough flour spread around to fit your size. So it's going to be 14 by 14. Now I'm going to get my little kitchen ruler out. But first, before we roll the dough, I want to make our cinnamon sugar blend. Now this is just a little bowl, and I don't really have a measurement for this, but we're going to say 1 cup of sugar. We're going to put, this is half a cup, so we're going to put 1 cup of regular sugar. All right. That's 1 cup. And this may be way too much for your cinnamon rolls. But what I like to do also is to put the rest of it into a little sealed bowl to use on cinnamon toast in the mornings. Okay, now I use big amounts. I get things at Sam's and I buy in bulk because we live way out in the country. We're 100 miles any direction from any big city. And so I have to get my supplies as much as I can. We have a little town a few miles away that I can get a few things, but not the big supplies. So I get my big flour, my big cinnamon, everything I use a lot of, I get big bulk. Now, this is 1 cup of sugar. Now, I don't really know how much I put in, but I'm going to add some and stir. And then if the color is about right, I like kind of a golden brown. So let's see how much it's going to take. As you know, the really old pioneer women used to say a pinch of this and a handful of that. So that's almost what this is. Okay, now I sprinkled cinnamon. Now I'm going to stir. And this is going to be your discrepancy. You can decide how dark of cinnamon you want it to be. But be sure you stir it up real good because it's all kind of streaky right now. And it may need a lot more. And so it's easier to add more than you can't take it out. So it's getting there, but it's not quite ready yet. We're going to add a little bit more. And probably I'm adding about a tablespoon at a time, maybe. Something like that, to 1 cup of sugar. And if you have any of the cinnamon sugar left over, then you can use it on your breakfast toast and delicious. All right, now I'm stirring this up, and it's still kind of streaky. You can always get a bigger bowl. I love to mix and stir and just play. It's so fun. I have so many of my viewers tell me that some of their children love to cook and they love to watch the show, and I try to go at a speed that everyone can understand. And of course with YouTube you can stop and start so you can understand. Whoa, that kind of went out. That's why I love cooking. You can always clean up. Now this is not quite brown enough yet. So I'm going to add maybe another tablespoon. We'll see. So it will be and it's not going to go to waste. You can use this cinnamon sugar on lots of stuff. And when your family gets to eat your cinnamon rolls, they are going to want more. So if you have excess left over, you can use it many times. All right, it's getting stirred. And I think that's going to be, kind of, sort of, I think that's going to be a good brown. Now I'm going to take a little pinch like this and I'm going to kind of taste it. And see if there's enough cinnamon in it. And I think maybe a little bit more. I should have mixed up half a cup instead of 1 cup. But I will use it. No problem there. Everyone in my family loves cinnamon rolls, and if I can and have the time, I like to take them to different people's houses and bless them if I can. Maybe for their birthday or something like that. It is so much fun to cook. And I love to make these videos so that you can learn to cook the old-fashioned way. And of course, it's a whole lot easier to drive to town and buy cinnamon rolls. But look at what you're spending extra money that you could already make, as well as they're not going to taste like these homemade ones. Woo! I wish you could have a bite with them with me in just a little bit. Now that's just right. That was about 3 to 4 tablespoons of cinnamon to 1 cup of sugar. So you can always make a smaller amount, half a cup with a few tablespoons. That'll be fine. But it has a little bit better color. And I'm going to take a little taste and let me see. Much better. It's not just straight sugar. It has a really good cinnamon in there. Now I'm going to set this off to the side because we're going to be having our elbows going everywhere. All right, we're going to get the sugar out of the way. As you can see, my little cabinet, I have everything pretty handy. Now, this is my plastic washable cooking ruler. And you can take any school supplies that's plastic, something washable that you can bleach. And this reason why I like to use a ruler is that you can always know for sure how thick to make your dough. Sometimes you might have biscuits too thin, or you might have these rolls too thin. But if you use this measuring the ruler, you'll always have them consistent and the perfect size. Let's get this out of the way. All right, we've got our ruler, and I'm going to make sure we're going to get our dough ball out. Isn't this beautiful? Now I'm going to set this over here. And your hands can be a little messy, but it doesn't hurt. I'm going to get a little bit of flour in my hands, like that. Okay, now you can watch me kneading. I'm going to push and turn, roll toward you, roll toward you. This is what I did in the bowl. Roll toward you. The reason why I used the bowl for these rolls for the 10 minutes is because I didn't need a lot of extra flour. That will make them tough. Now, what I'm doing is just getting kind of a, do you see that it's kind of a square-ish now? That's what we're wanting. We're wanting a 14 by 14. So, now that's beautiful. Feels like a baby's bottom. Okay, now, first thing you want to do is roll this in the flour and get it nice and seasoned so it doesn't stick. Now we're going to roll it out as flat as we can, 14 inches by 14 inches. Okay, we start in the middle and roll out. In the middle and roll out. Middle and roll out. Middle and roll out. Middle and roll out. It's going to take a little while to get it to the 14 inches. And roll out. Middle, roll out. Reason why we start in the middle is because it always seems to be thicker in the middle. So we're going to start in the middle and roll out. Middle and roll out. Middle and roll out. Can you see how you're using your arms? It's fun. It's really good exercise. Gonna do this. And it's also good exercise for your legs because you're bending and pushing and pulling. So it's really, really good for you. Plus, the food that you make homemade is absolutely delicious. We're going to get it to 14 by 14. And I just noticed that my hair is coming loose, so I want to tuck it back in. And that's a reason for that is we don't want hair to fall. Now I'm going to wash my hands again. That's just rinsing them. Now, we get back to the 14 inches by 14 inches. Okay. It's better to keep your hair out of the way. Not only can it fall in the food, but it'll get in your way and bother you and make you hot and problems. Okay. Now we're going to start measuring in just a minute. You see how pretty this is? Just beautiful. I love to work with dough because it's so pliable. It's wonderful. Now this ruler is 12 inches, so I'm going to lay it on the edge, and it's almost to the 12 on this side, so I need 2 more inches this way. So let's see what we've got over here. And it's the same, almost to 12, so we need 2 inches this way and 2 inches that way. Okay, we're going to keep on going. It's fun to have you cooking with me today. I always enjoy when my family and grandkids can come and enjoy cooking with me. Okay, we're going to go this way. Now, as you can see, this dough is kind of shrinking back up to where I had it, but it will move out. It'll stretch. But it's kind of sliding back in, but it's okay. You may hear periodically, I don't know when, but you may hear my little fur babies. I have 2 puppies, and you may hear them in the background. But they love Mama cooking. But they don't like when I'm videoing because I can't let them in the kitchen. So a lot of times they stand on the other side of the door and kind of moan and groan. Okay, it's getting better. So let's see what we've got. Looks a little better. Can you see? All right. Let's get the one. Ooh, I think we're there. And I'm going to take my thumbnail and make a little imprint. And the flower. That's exactly 14 right there. Now we may have to go out more this way. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to have to go out. This is just a little over 12, so I've got to go out more that way. But this width is just right. Okay, we're going to go more out this way. You want to keep it as even as you can, not one side thinner and one side thicker. Kind of keep it as even as you can. And this is so much fun. And another thing is, it's so much fun to see the end product of beautiful, beautiful cinnamon rolls and pies. Okay, now. Ooh, we're almost there. Here is 12. So this is 13, so we've got to go one more inch. And this is still the 14, so we're going to go a little bit more. Try to make it a little more even. It doesn't look like a very big ball of dough now. It doesn't look like it will make very much, but it really will. Okay, now let me see what we got. I'll bet you this is going to be it. Yep, I can tell. That's 14. Yeah, exactly. And this is exactly. Yay, we've made it. Okay, now the next step is melted butter poured and painted on this part. So I'm going to get my little pan and my little butter, and we'll get right back. All right, we are back. Now what I did was I have a little tiny pan and I put one stick of butter and I melted it in there. And what we're going to do is pour out a little bit at a time so that it may run everywhere, but it's okay. We're going to go at least most of this on this dough. So we're going to kind of spread it around. And I have a little pastry brush, and a little secret is that this was in the paint section at Walmart, and it was for like a little $1. And I have bought every pastry brush known to man, and they all seem to have the little hairs coming out on your food. But this has been better. It was like $1, and it's a little painting brush that you can kind of throw away, but I keep it sterilized and bleached, and I only use it for cooking. And so it's my little pastry brush now. And my husband and grandkids know not to touch anything in my kitchen. Not even the rulers or anything. This is all cooking supplies. So as you can see, I'm painting this butter. And you want quite a bit because you're going to sprinkle cinnamon and sugar like we mixed a while ago on top of all this. So let's get it way to the edges. Beautiful. And I only use unsalted butter. And the reason why is because I have salt in the recipe and you don't want extra salt. And this is unsalted butter. And I've noticed that if you see all the chefs and all the cooks, they talk about unsalted butter. Okay, now, guess what we're going to do? Now, this batch would make one huge cookie sheet are 2 small cookie sheets of the big cinnamon rolls. But we're going to make small ones. And I have extra pans just in case that this won't hold all of them. But we're going to make little cinnamon roll bites this time, littler ones. Now what you do is you take this same butter and you paint the little cups. And we're going to go around and paint each cup. And that butter is doing fine. It's kind of soaking in a little bit, so it's okay. And if we need to add more butter, we can. It won't hurt a bit. Now this is 1 dozen in this pan, and I'm going to butter 2 pans. So hopefully we're going to make 2 dozen of the little bitty ones. I'm not really sure, but we're going to try. I hope to. That way it will help and serve more people at the funeral. And I'm so sad that our dear lunch lady has gone. I was raised in a little town in Texas, and she was one of the girls that was a few years older than me, and she was in Hermleigh too. She went to all the school activities and was in school, and she married and she had children. And our ladies that there's many of us ladies from the school area that get together once a week and have lunch. And she was one of our sweetheart ladies that got sick. And I'm so sorry. And I want to dedicate this to Linda. That was her name, Linda. And I know she is in heaven. She loved the Lord and was really a wonderful, wonderful person. So we are painting all these little cups so they will be ready. Because once you have this rolled up into little rolls, they start kind of unrolling everywhere. So you want to have the little cups ready to put them in. That will kind of contain them in one spot. When you're cutting for the big cinnamon rolls, you use 1 inch measurement. That's how we're going to get our ruler out again. And when you're making the tiny ones, we're going to make them smaller, and I'll show you how much. Okay, we're going to set this off to the side. If we need it again, it's right here. All right. Now we're going to sprinkle our cinnamon sugar, and the butter looks really good. If we need more butter, we can add more. Now this was our sugar that we mixed up a while ago. And this is up to you also, to how much you put in this amount. There are some people that only put cinnamon in the middle, and then they have a glaze on top, which is wonderful if you want to do it that way. Then there are others that have the cinnamon sugar mixture, but not a lot. And then there's others that put a lot in between. So it'll be up to you. We're going to start sprinkling this around. And as you can see, it is not a lot, but it's kind of plenty. This is what I would usually stop at, was this amount right here. And this is a nice big little tablespoon to use. Kind of go all the way to the edges, and don't worry about getting it on your pastry cloth. They wash, and that's wonderful. Because when you're making biscuits, you don't want cinnamon in the biscuits. Oh gosh, this is going to be so delicious. Also, if you want to have nuts, pecans, any kind of nuts, walnuts, in these cinnamon rolls, you can add them right now, but make sure they're all chopped into tiny pieces, because the big pieces won't roll up as easy. So make them as tiny as you can, and add your pecans or your walnuts or however to this middle after you get the sugar on. And this is going to be really, really good. Oh gosh, this is going to taste so good. I wish you could be here and have some fresh coffee and cinnamon rolls with me. That would be so fun. And if you have neighbors close by, you're going to drive them wild with this fragrance. Okay, there's a little bit extra we're going to put right there, and a little bit extra right there. Okay, now that looks quite a bit, and it will be extra sweet, but that's the way I like to make them. Now, if you want less sugar, that's fine. If you want no sugar, that's fine, and you can just sprinkle the cinnamon on it. Okay, now, clean hands, and we have a nice, very sharp knife, because we're going to be cutting these into pieces. Okay, now we're going to roll this up. And remember, our dough was 14 inches by 14 inches. When these cook in the oven, the butter is going to start melting into the dough, and the sugar and the cinnamon will start melting and cooking into the rolls, because it's going to be delicious. It won't be real gritty when it's cooked. It'll be just right. And then, after it comes out of the oven in a minute, I'll show you how to make the glaze that we'll paint over the top of these. This takes a few minutes to roll up, and you kind of squeeze it a little bit to keep it in the roll without just trying to unroll itself. Bread dough is so fun. It has such a good feel to it. Now the ends are trying to just slide out, so I'm going to pat them back in. This one hasn't started that so much, but that end was trying to kind of slide out. So I'm just, there it is, see? This is trying to slide out, so I'm going to pat it back in. Okay, pat that back in. All right, now I'm going to slide it to me. Now, I'm going to take that end and kind of fix it there. Kind of pat that one back in also. Now, when we were making the big ones, we would use the ruler, sit it on the dough, and mark every inch. Now we're going to mark a smaller amount because we're going to make smaller ones. So we're going to mark every half of an inch. Now this is a very, very good sharp knife. Now I'm not cutting yet. I'm just going to mark every half of an inch. And it's so small that I'm kind of thinking, gosh, that's going to be extra little, but we have these small cups to go into. I'm used to the really, really big ones. So what I'm doing is laying the ruler, clean ruler, my cooking ruler, on top of the dough, and I'm making a little mark with the point every half inch. And for me it looks extra small because I'm so used to the big ones. But this is so fun, and by having a smaller one, it will feed more people as well as be easier to eat. Okay, now the ruler wasn't long enough, so I'm moving it down. And we'll put it about right there, and then I will mark another half, and a half, and a half, and a half, and kind of a small little half one right there. Okay, now I'm going to roll it up where you can see. I've got my marks every half of an inch. Okay, now I'm going to take this sharp, sharp knife, tap it back in, and I'm going to slice. And you try not to press down. You try to just slice slightly because you don't want to ruin that pretty circle. Now, let me show you what we have. This is a little one right here. Now I'm going to put it in a cup. And as you can see, it's a little roll in the little cup. All right, let's go get another half of one. Gentle slice. And I want to be sure and remind you to have your oven preheated to 375 and a little bit, but kind of between 375 and 400. Now I'm going to put this into the pan. You have a little bit of time for the oven to preheat because these are going to sit on top of the stove and they're going to rise in the pan. So you have a little bit of time. And if I need more pans, I have some more sitting off to the side. See our little bitty roll? We're going to put it right in there. And these are already buttered, already ready. And like I said, don't push down tiny bit of slicing. And don't use the variegated. Don't use like a saw blade. Use a straight blade because it will tear that dough. And that one kind of turned sideways on me, so I'm kind of working with it, getting it in there a little bit better. Alrighty. I'm just barely cutting. Okay. See? Our little bitty roll. Poke it back down in there. Now something else we're going to do is paint these with butter in just a minute. If you had extra company coming over and you wouldn't have enough of the big rolls to serve everybody, you can make these little bitty ones and everybody will get plenty. Or like if you're having a brunch. Okie dokie. See? They're just so pretty. All right. Try not to mash too hard until you get to almost to the pastry cloth. Now, as we are cutting these, the dough is slowly rising. So you don't want to go off and watch a TV show. Alrighty. See? There we go. Pretty little. And if you can keep them in their little circles when you put them in the pan, sometimes they kind of do different things, but it'll still be pretty. I'm putting my finger over the knife to hold the roll. Now my knife is getting a little sticky. So what I think I'm going to do is rinse my knife off and dry it off so it'll be clean. Now this is getting a little bit harder to put in, but it's still okay. And they will rise. Now it's a little sticky on the knife and it's kind of sticking, so I'm going to rinse it. And I'm going to get a clean towel. And we will kind of wipe that dough off a little bit. And remember, everything washes. Thank goodness. All right, here we go. Yeah, that's cutting so much better. Still getting a little sticky down there, but we're working at it. And see, it tries to kind of flop away from me, but I'm going to pull it back in. Whenever I put these pans on top of the stove, the heat from the inside of the oven will the heat in the area is going to help them to rise. I put my finger over because it's trying to fall down. When I get to the bottom, I'm having to kind of mash. But just be careful with them. Don't get your fingers in the way. And remember, I would love to hear from you. And I do answer, and I will answer you. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you. All right, we're starting on our second pan. And from the looks, I'm not quite half through, so we may have a few little extra left over. And me and my husband can have some with coffee in a little bit. Another thing too, that if you wanted to put these little smaller ones on a cookie sheet, you could still do that, but remember they're not going to be very wide. If it's a 1-inch cut, they're going to be this big, beautiful. And I'm going to get some flour on this. Maybe that will help a little bit. Yeah, that flour is helping. See, so pretty. And just poke them in the best that you can. Try to get the whole little thing down the bottom and just kind of poke them around in there. And I'm going to get a little bit more flour. That's working good on the knife. So you and me learned something right now. Okay, 1/2 inch. And I've never been to chef school or anything like that. I just had wonderful people that took their time to teach me. And they also didn't make me feel rushed. And they didn't make me feel dumb if I didn't do a good job or something. They really were good. And that's what I want to be with you. I want to help you to enjoy cooking. Beautiful little roll. Just be careful. This knife is sharp, but I don't want you to get yourself cut. And sometimes I'm just having to mash down, so just be careful with them. Pretty soon, when these are cooking, ooh, this kitchen's going to smell delicious. This is so fun. See if we still need a little bit more each time. As you can tell, making good food takes time, but it's worth it. It's the fun. It is like a hobby, as well as you get to enjoy the eating of it. And your family and friends are so proud of you. My finger didn't grab that quick enough, but it's still okay. And they just slide right into the little buttered cups. All right, beautiful little rolls. Getting these all, we're almost done with these pans. And then we'll butter and set them to the side. And we'll let them rise, and while we're letting them rise, I'll do the other little pans. Okay, now these I'll put in another little pan in just a minute. Let me get some of this kind of cinnamon sugar off. There we go. Now we do have a little bit of butter, and it's still pretty liquid, so I'm going to paint the top. Not only does the butter help to make them flavored good, but the butter also keeps them from drying out while they're rising. So it's really a good deal. We're going to paint these. Get them all painted pretty. Okay, now I'm going to take a break while I finish this and then let them rise, and I'll let you see them as soon as they're nice and poofy. So thank you, and I'll be right back with the poofy risen little rolls. Okay. All right, we are back. It's been about an hour since been letting them rise. They've been sitting on top of the stove, not around too much heat, but enough heat. And this is how much they've risen. And they're really beautiful, puffy rolls. Here's the other pan. And with the extra of the rolls, I was able to make another little bitty pan. Let me show you those. This is the little bitty pan. So now I'm putting them into the preheated oven at 375. Now my oven, I have it set a little closer more to 400. Every oven is a little bit different. Now you want to leave them in, not to get extra brown. And the recipe says probably, I think, for 20 minutes, but that's for the big ones. So let's try 10 minutes for these, and if they're not quite done, then we'll try a little bit longer, maybe 15, but 10 minutes at first to see if they're cooked enough, because they're smaller. So we don't have to cook them as long. So then I'm going to put them in the oven, and then we will come back and make the glaze, and that's the beautiful kind of a creamy sauce that will go on the top and be painted on top of the rolls when they come out. So I will be back after I get them in the oven, and we will start making our glaze. We'll be right back. Okay, I've just put them in the oven. The little pan doesn't fit just yet, and it needed a little bit more rising. So I'm going to cook the first two big pans and then we'll put the little one in later. But this one, what we're going to do is make the glaze, and it's kind of a white creamy glaze. Now it's going to be 1 cup of powdered sugar, and we want to sift it. And if you've ever used powdered sugar out of the little sack or something, it has little lumps in it, and you think that those little lumps will melt away when you add liquid to it. It doesn't. They stay lumpy. So you do need to sift it. I do have an extra sifter that I use just for my powdered sugar. But if you don't, you could use your sifter that you're using for your flour, and it will be just fine. So now we're going to put 1 cup of powdered sugar into the sifter. I have a little bitty bowl. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. This is that pottery that I love so much. It has a little handle which makes it handy. I love this little bowl. Now we're going to put butter also into this recipe, 1/3 of a cup of butter, and I have it melting just slowly on the stove right now. So we're going to do the powdered sugar, and we're going to use 1 cup. This is half a cup that's already in here, so I'll use 2 of them, but 1 cup. So let me get this over here. We're going to be adding vanilla, powdered sugar. We're going to use canned milk, and I like to use Carnation, and I'll show you in just a minute when I get the sugar measured. So we're doing 1 cup, and this is 1/2 of a cup, and so I'm doing 2 of them. So we're going to do that. Okay. And excuse the hands, gonna scoot this away. Now we're going to measure the milk will be 1/4, and I love the Carnation can. Pat is fine, but this makes a rich, creamy sauce. So let's first sift this. I'll check my butter. My butter is slowly melting. So let's get this sifted. Woo! I went on the table. I guess I needed a bigger bowl, or to be careful. It's okay. That's what I love about cooking, is that it's okay if you make a mess. You just wipe it up. And with our aprons on, that really makes it easier. And I can't wait to see the finished the cinnamon rolls coming out of the oven. And these are going to be the smaller size because they're going to be more of like a handheld instead of eating with a fork. And this is for a bigger group of people, so I want them to spread. Now I just washed my table, so I'm going to put this sugar in that same little bowl. Now we're going to add our milk, and we need 1/4 of a cup, undiluted. Don't add water to this right now. Let me check that butter. Okay, that butter was getting ready. Now let's add the milk, and I'm going to get a nice big spoon. We all have our little favorite spoons. So we're going to put 1/4 of a can. Now this glaze, sometimes the glazes that are in different restaurants are more like or cafes or whatever, more like a white frosting, but this is almost like a clear glaze. So that's what we're going to use. That's 1/4. And now we're going to put 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And in my other videos, I use La Vencedora from Mexico, and it's pure vanilla. And don't use imitation if you can help it at all. The pure vanilla won't cook out when you're putting it inside the recipes. And it has such a much better flavor. 1 teaspoon. These bottles are big and kind of heavy. I get them from Amazon, and you can get different prices, as well as you might find them in gift shops. All right, 1 teaspoon. Okay. This will be a painted on kind of like melted butter glaze. It won't be a real rich thing. Okay. Now we're going to stir this up, and then we will add our butter. The glaze has quite a bit of butter in it, but that also is a good flavor too. So we're going to stir this up and then add the butter. And as you can see, it's taken a few minutes to stir. Get all the little sugars on the sides and everything. And we don't want to have the melted butter too hot, because it just won't taste very good, and it might make it curdle, might make the milk curdle. I'm going to try to mix this up. Excuse me, the dogs in my home went nuts. Okay, I have the melted butter, and I have the glaze ready to pour in the melted butter, and it's still pretty runny. That's what we want. And so we're going to pour in the butter. That's 1/3 of a cup of butter melted. And I wish you could smell the amazing cinnamon rolls in the oven. And I will bring them out and put them here and let you see how beautiful they are. And then we'll paint the glaze on them. And I'm stirring this all up to get it all mixed. And my timer's gone off, so I will be right back with you. Thank you. All right, I've got them out of the oven, and it took 10 minutes because they're smaller in size. And I can't wait for you to see up close how beautiful these rolls are. And they're not glazed yet. We're going to glaze them. And it's a perfect size. Let me show you here. Absolutely perfect. Now, to make sure that the dough is cooked on the inside, it was my grandmother's, maybe great-grandmother's. This is called a bread tester, dough tester. You can use a toothpick, but you can go down into the middle of the dough, and if it comes out with goo on it, it's not done on the inside. So we're going to test it and see, and let's see if I can raise one of these up for you to see. We're going to go, let's see, which one? How about the middle one? Let's go on this one, and I'm going to go right straight through. Ah, look. It's clean. That's no sticky, so that means they're cooked on the inside. Now use a toothpick at your home if you don't have something like that. Now we're going to glaze, and we don't necessarily have to use a brush. We can, and I think I will, because when they're in a cookie sheet, you have the little side walls that catches the runoff, but these are coming up out of the pan. So I'm going to paint these, and maybe that will work a little bit better. We're going to check it out and see. Here we go. We're painting. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I wish you could smell. My goodness, they smell out of this world. Now this glaze, I'll show you again. It's real runny on purpose. I don't like the real thick painted kind of frosting. Ugh. And so this is so much better because when you're eating the roll, you don't get a mouthful of just the frosting. You're getting the whole flavor all together. So I'm going to wipe some of this off of the spoon, and we're going to use our brush. And it's going to be shiny and beautiful. Can you see how beautiful that they are? Now there's quite a bit of butter in this, so it's going to help kind of soak into the rolls. That's what we want. We want them to soak into the roll, and you want to paint it as good as you can. Get down into the little cracks and the little places towards the center too. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, I wish you could smell these and have some with me to eat. I would love to share with you. And if you make these at your home, write me and tell me how they turned out, or send me pictures. I would love to see your pictures. You can send your pictures on the email, and you can write to me on granny'scountrycooking@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you and see how your little rolls turned out, your little cinnamon roll bites. And we're going to take, I've already done this one, but I kind of wanted to paint him again. We're going to take one of these out in just a minute. I'm not going to move them out of the pan because they need to set up and get a little firm around the edges. If I take them out, I don't want them to fall apart. So we're going to leave them in the pan for just a little while. Then we will take them out, and I will have pictures of them after I take them out for you to see. This week alone, I have put 4 videos on YouTube, and I'm so glad for you to see. I've put the chocolate meringue pie, and I have put the pie dough by itself. So if someone's just wanting to only make the pie dough, they can do that. I put the chocolate filling or pudding by itself. And then I also did the meringue by itself. That way, if you're making a different kind of pie and you want to see the meringue, then you don't have to go through a whole video. Oh, this is just beautiful. And I'm letting it kind of run down in the center there. Oh, and they smell absolutely wonderful. My little puppies got to barking in a few minutes ago. And we live way out in the country, so you never know who's driving up or coming up or whatever is happening. This is absolutely beautiful. Oh, this is so much fun. And our other rolls are in the oven, our little bitty pan, and we will get it out and paint it real good too. And this glaze is quite a bit, so it's going to be plenty for all of them. This is just beautiful. I think what I'll do, so you don't have to sit and watch me paint them all, is that I will take a break and we will come back when the other little pan gets out, and then we'll visit some more and look at how delicious these look. Be right back. Oh my goodness. Look at these absolutely beautiful cinnamon roll bites. They're small cinnamon rolls, and they're put into a muffin pan that's been painted with butter. Oh, these are so beautiful. I'm so proud you were with me today, and I hope you will write me and let me know how your rolls turned out. I would love to see pictures. Isn't that beautiful? Oh my gosh. And the little pan turned out perfect too. And those will be a little bit extra. But I want to thank you for being with me today. Thank you for pushing the like button and for also ringing the little bell so that you can subscribe to my channel. And I would love, love, love to hear from you. Please let me know how you liked the video, and if you have any ideas for future food coming up, I would love to hear from you. And let me know if you have questions, anything you would like to know. I will be so glad to help you out. And thank you so much for being with me today. God bless you all, and thank you. Bye-bye.